Welcome to Darkwoods Paranormal, brought to you and produced by Unbox Media LLC. I am your host, Gabriel Von Graves, and alongside me, the enigmatic Raven Knight. Together, we journey beyond the veil of the ordinary into a world where reality meets the supernatural. Each week, we guide you through tales of the relentless spirits, shadowy cryptids, and conspiracy theories that challenge what we think we know. Whether drawn to folklore, urban legends, or forces that have haunted humanity for centuries, Darkwoods Paranormal offers stories that captivate and disturb. Stories that might just keep you awake at night. So listen closely as we explore the secrets buried in shadows. Step into the darkness with us. This is Darkwoods Paranormal. Let the journey begin.
Thank you for tuning in to this extra special episode of Darkwoods Paranormal. I'm Raven Knight, and today we're diving into part 2 of our exclusive interview with Bob Weiss, the owner of Shaker's Cigar Bar in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, we highly recommend you check it out. In that episode, Bob shared the fascinating history of Shaker's Bar and gave us a glimpse into the many paranormal experiences that have made it one of the most haunted bars in the country. In this episode, we're taking things a step further as we discuss Shaker's connection to Jeffrey Dahmer, dive deeper into the spirits that linger there, and explore Bob's passion for the restaurant business, from cooking to creating unforgettable experiences for his guests. For all things Darkwoods Paranormal, visit us at darkwoods.paranormal.com. You can also catch us each week with an all-new episode of Darkwoods Paranormal on iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you have a story to share, or perhaps you own your own haunted bar and want us to check it out, send us an email at darkwoods.paranormalpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Now, let's jump into part 2 of our interview with Bob Weiss at Shaker's Cigar Bar. To talk about the Jeffrey Dahmer connection. Now, you have mentioned in some of the things that I've watched and read that Jeffrey actually used to frequent this bar. Can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, I know that you have the tour, the tour with, and I kind of want to know a little bit about how you knew he was frequenting the bar, how you found out that whole story, that it was him, for one, and then for two, now that you offer these tours, how that went over with some of the public.
1991 is when we first started noticing him, January of 91. So at that time, we were open for lunch, and our clientele is all corporate America. Not just corporate America, we are heavy with the judiciary, so it's judges, it's every law firm in town, it's FBI, it's Secret Service, and design firms, architectural firms, whatever. But it's that part of the society that is well comported and professional, and they are what they are, right? This guy, I'm still cooking every day, and that was for lunch as well. Towards the end of lunch, this guy would come in starting in January of 91. He might have been there sooner, but we didn't quite queue up to it. But the staff would just say, "There's that odd guy again."
Did you feel he was odd? I mean, he was true.
No question whatsoever. It's not just that he didn't dress like they,
Right.
He didn't comport himself like they,
Right.
He didn't have the social skills like they. He was that odd guy, right? Turned out to be very odd. So as one of those things, again, I preface we've got 38 people on staff, 33 on female. He would not let the female bartenders or servers get him a drink. He was adamant that a man would do it. Open kitchen, there I am, myself or my sous chef, mostly me, would walk over and make his gin and tonic. No conversation. I will never, however, forget his eyes. They're like little boring gimlets, is when I say to people, you think about the movie Jaws or Jurassic Park, where you got this menacing eye that's looking at you. At the same time, it looks like it's dead, right? And it just bores into you as he's ordering his drink. No conversation. Gin and tonic. And from my studies, the vast majority of serial killers drink gin and tonic or gin. Gin makes you sin, whatever it might be. But you go back to Britain as well, there's a prevalence of gin that's there. So gin and tonic, he'd have one or two. There was a stool. The front and back bar both had the same stool at that time, the 24 whatever, exact same thing, except one was done a little bit differently, had like 3/4 inch, maybe an inch height greater than the others. And that was at the front bar, and if he could find his way to that one, that's where he sat and just sipped his drink and glared at people. I know one of those silly Netflix things had him drinking like rum and cokes or something. He might have, but that wasn't his thing here, okay? Sure. They took a lot of liberties on that, by the way.
I heard that.
So, I knew the detectives, Murphy and Kennedy, good Irish boys, and suddenly one's black. And, sensationalism pays, right? So that's what that whole thing was about. And even the neighbor they had, was it Glenda or something? Yeah. Whoever wasn't actually the neighbor, didn't actually live next door. And it was all prevarication, and it sold well, And at the end of the day, it was good for us because it was spiked. But once the Netflix Dark Tourist thing was done here in 2017, which again was kind of a hackneyed job, but it brought us people from all over the world, whether it was India, throughout the Middle East, throughout Korea, Japan, Argentina, whatever. People are flocking here. So as soon as that aired, within a week, you started seeing everybody, and that has continued on. So BBC is here from London, filming a couple of times a year. RTI from Germany films here. Everybody films here, and it just continues the lore. So we do a disproportionate amount of serial killer tours every year. We went from having 2 of them 1 day a week to now having multiples 4 days a week. And the vast majority of people who take that tour are female, 25 to 40 years old, college educated. And we have actually some of the psychologists that are here every week, and one of them actually worked on the Dahmer case as well. And I would ask Izzy, I'd say, what's with this, with all these women, But you will hear them talking about, if he was alive, I'd like to date him. And I'm thinking, man, this is just kind of wacky, in so many ways. He eats people, but okay, that's good. But why are women so fascinated, or they're taking notes as to what to do with their spouses? I don't have an idea what it might be, but they really are the lion's share of that business. And that is day in, year in, decade in now, it doesn't change. Now, to answer the second part of your query about that, one of the local TV stations here, I think it was Channel 6, really banged that drum when we announced we're going to do these things, and they went out of their way to find the family members that still remained. The family members at this point really didn't care anymore. If they even cared. Here's my kind of theory on this, is that he was so successful because Wisconsin has got this interesting little weather pattern, and we've got 6 months of kind of crappy weather, though maybe not so much the last few years. And now you've got a kid who's, 15, 17, whatever, 20 years old, announces to his family, hey, I'm gay, and like, times have changed, but get out of here. We're going to disown you. We have nothing to do with you. So now you got somebody who is lost. They find themselves down because the gay bars were there, and we're like this little oasis in between that wasn't that. But here's a kid who's tossed out. He's got nothing going on, and now you find the friendly stranger that I can buy you drinks or something else, or get you a meal, and maybe come to my house. We'll take some pictures later, and we'll have fun together. Whatever. And so those people are more susceptible at that time. Times have changed so significantly, though, that in many ways there's not even a reason to have gay bars anymore, because everything is kind of homogenous, and society has grown up finally, and they kind of accept things, right? And it was a prime fodder time for him, and the police departments were not as attuned to the socialization aspects as well. So it was a richer environment for someone to be pursuing people. And he hunted here, obviously. So we cover this on the Cream City Cannibal Tour. You really should take that tour. But this is the epicenter. So it's down by the gay bars there, or where they used to be. There's only one that remains, La Cage. and all the city has closed out the rest of them, made an inconvenience for them to stay in business, right?
Sure.
And there's been a lot of other development as well to try to bury that. But my girlfriend and I, well, she was a part of the tours as well. So Matt and I were frequently in other places consulting other tours for ghost tours. And we're in Key West consulting on their ghost tours. And that particular morning, like anywhere else, of course, you're in Paradise, you're in Key West, and people would say, hey, where are you from? Because everyone's from somewhere else, right?
Sure.
Milwaukee. And virtually everybody we encounter say, oh, Milwaukee, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes.
So I said, Jesus, when we get back, we're going to do a Dahmer tour. And I pride what we do here on our ability to be more docents than a standard tour guide. We are rigorous about the history and how everybody here that does those tours has to have the sensitization classes, and we go through everything else with them because we are not here to aggrandize what Dahmer did at all, right? So we approached the city of Milwaukee and said, we want to put up an obelisk as a memorial to the victims.
Yeah.
We want no part of that whatsoever. We want to forget this even took place. Just like they had marshaled up some of the big philanthropists in Milwaukee who acquired all of the things that went along with Dahmer, the property, everything that was associated with that, and they tore down the Oxford apartment complex, right? Well, you can't bury your head in the sand, and that's one of the reasons we do this, because to me at least, the same message that was pertinent in 1991 is pertinent today. Don't accept drinks from strangers. Don't leave your drink on the bar unattended. And, there was a good period of time where women were more cautious, but certainly with the advent of OnlyFans, they're caution to the wind. They don't care. So you could easily say, yeah, let me come back and film you guys for OnlyFans segment right now because I'm a really good producer and I got my own cameras. Oh my God, great. Yeah, I'll do anything, right? And the next thing you're being served on a platter. So, and that's one of the more heinous things about him because there are, and again, being involved in the tours in Los Angeles, there are serial killers anywhere. In my mind, it's heinous enough to kill someone, and now you've gone a step beyond that to dismember someone.
Right.
And now you've gone beyond that to even beyond the Ed Gein kind of thing to take their skin, heads, whatever, to save those. And or the other parts, well, let's eat those. Why not, right? So you really have expanded your repertoire in a really non-human, non-civilized way. And talk about Caligula, we continue. I mean, we are on the precipice, holding on by our fingernails as our society continues to erode in this country. And this is just as more of that takes place, it's not just the rampant sex and I don't want to sound like a prude because I'm not at all. I'm in the bar business, but the reality is that we have gone so far with some things, and that's just like a next step beyond that. And maybe that's how that ties in with the fascination with serial killers. I don't know. Thing here in Milwaukee probably a year and a half ago where there was a number of black prostitutes that were murdered. Mm-hmm. And it was a thing for a moment, then it kind of dissipated as well. And then earlier this year, there was a cat who applied for a job here, who we didn't hire because he was just too far off the wall. But he took our ghost tour and our Cream City Cannibal tour, and he was really overly enthusiastic about Dahmer. Mm. We didn't want him.
Right.
And then within 3 to 4 weeks, there were body parts that were found of a woman dismembered in a variety of locations.
I remember this too.
And to my knowledge, we still have not found his head. And he also, by the way, had dug a pit by his house or apartment. And Maxwell Anderson was his name.
Okay.
Creepy ass guy, Maxwell Anderson. And so he had dug this pit, kind of like a bomb shelter next to his residence. And the police began the investigation, and then nothing was said after that point. I would suggest, though the police are still looking for the head, that there are other things that are buried in that enclave.
Right.
So we've come a long way, that we are much more open about all sorts of things, and there's better disclosure for all sorts of things, and yet some things, maybe people don't need to know some things. And that's, you kind of go back to like, the old Greeks and the Romans, you got the vox populi, the hoi polloi, where people don't need to know the interactions of everything that the government does because they can't handle the capacity, they don't have whatever to understand the nuance. This is beyond that, but maybe some things people just don't need to know because that spawns copycats, that spawns all sorts of other things that it just creates more to that, right? So maybe that's what that is.
Okay. Wow, we touched on a lot. We touched on the Capones, we've touched on the spirits that are here, we touched on Dahmer, of course. The last thing that I do want to talk, not only is that, I mean, you have the ghost tours and you have these other tours, you also serve food. You are also a cigar bar. I just want to quickly touch on that. If you can tell other people what else you have to offer here and why, if they're not so much into the paranormal or
Yeah. So I mean, we are the only licensed cigar bar in the city of Milwaukee, and
Good for you, by the way.
thank you. You could suggest that we just paid the right people the right amount, but I'm not saying that.
We'll edit that part.
Well, no, you don't have to.
Okay.
So, most of City Hall, smokes here and drinks here on a regular basis anyway. But so we are that, and we have 4 floors here and 3 centuries to cover with everything that we do. And there's all sorts of other interesting little things like the primary spirit in the cellar is named O'Connor. O'Connor, when Fox was here from Denver, they have a full apparition they caught of him, picture of him, in Confederate regalia. So many Irishmen from the North fought for the South because they were concerned about the freedom of slaves having a foot up on the ladder above the Irish have a terrible self-concept. You might have heard that. And so that's one of the other little interesting historical notes that goes on with different spirits here. But, getting back to cigars, yes, we are that place. But as a chef, it's part of my gastronomic vision. And as I travel the world, people have phenomenal meals and they're smoking cigars. And cigars, think about the old Daddy Warbucks kind of a thing as well. There is a certain affluent portion that goes with it. And fortunately in our society, we've gotten past just some of that. You don't have to be wealthy to smoke cigars. You can enjoy the tobacco in some ways without the stench of cigarettes and the other things that go along with that in a way that is not necessarily as harmful to you and yet is part of one of those enjoyments of life. That's how I look at this, okay? Now, as far as the food program goes, there are a handful of places in the country that are cigar bars that do food. To my knowledge, we are one of the very few that is an award-winning restaurant. From here, we spawned a line of food products. We were discovered by Marshall Fields in 1989. So within a few months of their being here for dinner and asking me to do this, I was now in the food production business and with Babalu's Foods. And we started off with Fields, then to Beaumarchais in Seattle, then to Macy's, Bloomingdale's, to Neiman Marcus, to Nordstrom, so higher end type things, and then to hotels, restaurants, country clubs, coast to coast. Ag department got me into Europe. We were in 6 countries in Europe and had just gotten into Japan and South Korea when my wife at the time said, you're never at home because you're flying thither and yon. So that ended that.
Right.
And then my 10-year divorce process where the courts just said, we're not going to let you sell that, by the way. So they killed it for all intent and purpose because it was dormant. And my other things were gone, but I retained this and my house and my kids, and I'm happy about that.
That's good.
So, but the food program is mostly based on the time I spent in the Caribbean. So it's seafood primarily. It's Caribbean, Creole, and Cajun foods mostly, and then other things. But even my mindset with the food was to do things that are not available in Milwaukee and to give people the opportunity to taste things You know, there's a misnomer everywhere that if it's Cajun, it's got to be hot. But my thought is it has to have balance and flavor and integrity. If all you're looking for is heat, you may as well have oleo resin on cardboard, and that's not appealing to me, right? And then we've got this award-winning wine program here as well. And again, I've got a phenomenal staff. The rooftop bars as well. We're coming to the end of the season for that. But it's something really unique, and even I stylize that so it's more like the time I spent in Barcelona than it is just like a rooftop bar somewhere. And synergistically, this stuff all kind of works together. It's just a blast to be here, and I enjoy virtually every day coming here, and I like the people I work with that are really, even after 4 decades, are the reason that I'm still in business is the people that work here and the people that come here. So, and I was brought up in a restaurant family, and it was drilled into me at an early age that you take care of those delivery people because, especially in Chicago, they'll leave your stuff outside, if even that, right? I mean, we're driving by, here it goes, you know? So, you know, if you want those things taken downstairs to the cellar, you're good to them. You're good to them not just that day, and for me, that's easy with cigars or something else. Here's a bottle of wine, thank you very much. But certainly when they bring in their spouses, girlfriends, whatever the case might be, you take care of them, right? Because they take care of you. And that's not an added expense to me. That's the cost of doing business the right way, because you want them to feel comfortable in not just the fact that they're there socially, but the fact that you treat them with respect when they come to do their job. And they're not a little person because they're delivering. Without deliveries, you're not in business, right? It's real simple. So to me anyway. And the same thing with my staff downstairs. They bust their tail. So for example, on Saturday we had 220 people on tours. We had so it's an all-day thing, 15 person each per tour, right? We had a 30-person gig on the rooftop bar up here. We had a 20-person downstairs. We had an 8-person outside. Then we had a 20-person show up after whatever they had somewhere else. In addition, we're already completely booked on every floor. We're slammed. But you've got to find a way to do your best to accommodate these people and make them feel welcome.
Right.
And you know, as harried as we are, and I can't begin to tell you how harried we were on every station, crazy, but you still have to look at the reason that we're in business, and the reason that we make the ridiculous revenue we do is because my staff cares, and they're able to process that with the customer and make them feel important as well.
Yeah.
So you can't always do that, but you try your hardest to make it happen. And again, we're dealing with people, so sometimes there's just that little glitch that just ain't going to work out, you know? You're not getting along with your spouse, and it doesn't matter what we do for you, it's not going to happen, right? But the other 85 or 90% of the time, I think we do the right thing. So it costs you nothing to be kind to other people. Nothing at all. It's honest to God, it's really what people should be, because
I thank you for your time. This is I'm very fortunate that I get to meet somebody like you today.